is Dave, it is Duncan back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Depressive black metalers Ghostbath. The band's new album, Thorn Necklace, will be released on May 9th via Nuclear Blast Records. Free from the Moonlover, Star Mourner, Self-Loather conceptual trilogy, sole proprietor Nameless, aka Dennis McCullough, explores the most intense and introspective Ghostbath oeuvre, advancing with blackened blasts and melancholic movements while moving his only child forward into the unknown. Despair, isolation, disgust, and antipathy are the beating, corrupt heart of Rose Thorn Necklace. Indeed, the lyric lines in "Well, I tried drowning, a test, cut my throat while I'm drowning in my sleep. I'm wide awake, I smile red as you're watching me. Let me gargle, choke on my own blood. Forever gone, eyes glazed as my lungs flood." Ghostbath, in their 12th year of existence, are not in the business of softening the edges. Rather, the frontman is leaning more towards his antisocial traits, serrated like a rusty knife, yet beautifully honed over the years of toil. From the title track featuring McCullough's signature multi-headed vocal anguish and brutality, to Dandelion Tea, where Ghostbath dig deeper into haunting grooves and gravestone melodies, Rose Thorn Necklace transcends. I set out to really explore some disturbing things in the lyrics, the music, and the artwork. As always, I try to tie all of those together as much as possible. I began this one with a guitar riff, then write down some ideas, and back and forth for a bit until the concept was formed. I had all the terms swirling in my head and all these disgusting ideas. The real trick was to try to not hold myself back. I wanted to make something depressive with despair, lavish, gothic, grotesque, gross, and visceral as some of the guiding themes. After returning from the worst tour I ever had been a part of with the band, being physically ill for over 2 months straight, I fell into extreme depression. The only way I know how to cope with that is to create and make art. So I got my guitar out and went insane in a way. I went from 12 hours in my office to 16 hours minimum, and became obsessed and recorded and re-recorded parts for months. When I presented them to the band, they all seemed on board, but our drummer at the time said he didn't connect with them emotionally. We parted ways with him and I continued. I've had whole bands quit on me when showing them my ideas and music. My entire lineup left when I showed them the very first EP from 2013, which is why I was solo for a while. So I don't blame him. I don't think my fucked up music and lyrics are for everyone. Certainly Ghostbath is ever changing. On stage, McCullough's team includes Tim Church, John Oliver, both on guitar, and Josh G on bass. In the studio, especially for Rose Thorn Necklace, drummer Mike Heller of Fear Factory was brought on board to help realise Ghostbath's sonic visions. I don't think it was a conscious decision to self-record, says McCullough, who wrote and recorded in tandem. It just sort of happened. At the end of the day, keeping what I had written in such darkness was the right move, instead of taking everything I wrote and recording and trying to reproduce it in some studio. This felt more honest and raw to me. I don't know if I could have conjured up the thoughts and pain it took to record everything at home. I definitely didn't want to relive it. The writing and recording happened at the same time. It was hell. Physically and mentally, it damaged me, mostly brought on by myself. I wanted to die most days, but instead I channeled every ounce of energy I had plucking strings and screaming into a microphone alone in my office. Then I drank until I passed out and did it again for months. After recording, the album was mixed and mastered by Jack Shirley at the Atomic Garden recording studios in Oakland. Okay, so Ghostbath, another band that I've weirdly been aware of for a number of years, but I'd never really sat and listened to them. And then our man Ross, also writer at Metal Epidemic,
Young Ross to the hip crowd.
Young Ross, young blood. He reviewed Self-Loather, the previous Ghostbath album, which he really liked. And after he sent me his review and I read it, I was like, this seems like something I should probably check out. And I never did. So,
because he's young, and what does he know about it?
Nothing. So when this came in for review, I was like, this seems like maybe an opportunity to get acquainted with some Ghostbath.
I could give this to Ross, who really likes this music, but not this time, Ross, because he tried and forced the band on me. That's what you get for being eager and keen, Ross. You get nothing.
I did check out Self-Loader that Ross reviewed, and he wasn't wrong, to be honest.
Oh.
It's actually a really good album. There was a lot of traits and kind of like stylistic choices that like I would usually be drawn to taste wise. Like it's they're a kind of atmospheric kind of post black metal band, but there's a lot of like additional toppings, I suppose, where it's like sometimes it gets more extreme or more depressive, or sometimes the guitar work goes a bit more progressive as well. So like a good variety over the album. They cover a lot of bases. I love the production on Self-Loader, that previous album. Really, it was like a really dank sounding album. And it kind of, when I heard it, it reminded me of a band that I reviewed for a previous website called Sick Temptum. I think they were French. Like a black metal band. They had I think they had a couple albums out. The last one was 2016, Panacea, I think it was called. So I had some kind of similar traits to that. So I think I was kind of drawn to it. Pretty bleak sounding, but really cool. So that then brings us to Ghostbath and their new album, Rose Thorn Necklace. Had you heard them before, or is this completely new for you?
Totally new to me. I know what the term Ghostbath means. So
It's to do with drowning. Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah.
So I'm aware of the term, and from the album artwork, I could guess where the sound may be heading.
Right. Okay.
Thought there might be a blackened element in it. That was purely a guess from the fact that I couldn't read the words Ghostbath on the album cover. A purple monstrosity is what it is, right? It's what happens. Like, see if you get a bloody nose and you sneeze in a hanky and open it. That's kind of what the logo looks like. It's like a Rorschach test. You're trying to say, like, I see a bunny rabbit. I see two ninjas fighting with baguettes. You don't know what you're doing. So I hadn't heard anything about it.
Okay. Interesting.
And I had to put this in a way which succinctly summarizes my views before I make my point.
Okay.
There are a few albums in the modern times where blackened vocal elements are used that I have gravitated to as quick as I have on this.
Right.
I really like this. Now, I really like this because of, one, it's kind of very earthy, almost analog production, which I think serves, particularly with the choice of synths on this one. The synths have a more retro feel on it, which, had you put a more polished drum sound, the drum sound, studio sound, you know what I mean? They sound like there's very little fuckery here at all, if any. But if you overproduce any one element and then put that synth sound on it, you fucking ruined it. You know what I mean? It's like, why are we doing this? Also, the guitar work as well has this kind of, at times, it kind of straddles the choice of riffing, and some of the cleans sound like it's almost been plucked from like an Allman track from the 70s. In fact, I think it's Thinly Sliced Heart Muscle. The band are going to hate me for this. They're really going to hate me for this. The guitar riff in there sounds like kind of like battle level Creed.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. I was going to say the same thing.
I was like, when I just hear the news of the day.
It's total with arms wide open. Like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, what?
But it totally works because everything else on the track has this kind of, like, the synth work on that track just alone is just fucking awesome. But it just has this very somber, very melancholic core where that guitar fits perfectly on it. And they don't do it on many tracks. I'm not going to put people off by saying sounds like Creed.
It's not a Creed album,
and it's reminiscent of, it's not Creed, right? We'll put Creed to the side because they'll not be mentioned again throughout this review, right? But what I think, like, Ghostbath have a really, really interesting way of delivering is the style switches on the album and tracks are fucking incredible. You get like tracks like Dandelion Tea, which I know they mentioned in the kind of press statement. It's kind of like black metal Mastodon. It's like it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's not that far away from being something you would have heard on Blood Mountain or even Crack the Sky, in terms of like it's kind of out there, kind of proggy guitar playing before it then kicks into a kind of more traditional blackened, like a blackened metal song. But all those elements building up together are not. It's not like the style switch there is whiplash inducing at all. It kind of flows into it, and a lot of that's to do with the production, the use of the riffs. The riffs don't go off into like blackened territory, just the playing does.
Yeah.
And once again, the drums have this natural feel, so it kind of like it captures the aura. It's really weird to describe. I think it starts off like really interesting, like the grotesque display is like a big gothy hand job. You know what I mean? It just like, it brought me right in. I was like, "Ooh, what we got?" Like, it's atmospheric and it's gothy. And then the title song kicks in, which is always a good indicator. If a band puts the album name on a song early on in an album, it's usually a mission of intent.
Yeah.
Like when it comes later on, it's usually this is the summation of everything I want to do. This is why we put it there. But if it's early on, that's a good indicator of right, strap in. This is kind of what I'm aiming for. And it's really a good Rosetta Stone for everything on the album actually, because it covers quite a few different styles, different sims, which are then kind of fleshed out a little bit more as the album goes along.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting element of this. It's the thing that kept me coming back to wanting to listen to it again and again, was the fact that there is so much going on, but there's never too much going on.
Yeah.
There's a craft to the song construction as well, where a lesser musician would have pushed these songs to 6-7 minutes, and he doesn't do that. There's a kind of a quality control of about single length all the way through this. Very few songs go over the 4-minute mark, and they don't need to. But they get the point over in a similar way to how a band like Deafheaven will give you like a big long opus, but then know they have to hit you with like a 1-2 punch of a couple of shorter tracks to get the point over. It also allows them to do a little bit more, and then Ghostbath do exactly the same. And it's hard to mention Ghostbath and not mention bands like Deafheaven as well. I feel like Deafheaven kind of like laid out the template of how to do this. They cracked the Rubik's Cube and then put it down for everyone else to work on. And whilst it is Deafheaven adjacent, I never at any point felt like that was a pertinent reference to everything they were doing. It's there because they occupy a similar space, but it's not there because they sound the same. To me, where the album was leveling up is Well I Tried Drowning, which is a bleak fucking song. That song is heavy as fuck. Not heavy necessarily in playing, but just in tone. Like you feel the anguish all the way through it. But then you can take a track like that, and then you can, like I say, juxtapose it right beside Thinly Sliced Heart Muscle, which is this like beautifully constructed instrumental track. And for every Dandelion Tea where there's a bit of avant-garde playing, there's a Vodka Butterfly, which kind of goes a bit more quicker in for the jugular. The album is not long either. Like this clock's about 36 minutes, if that. And delivers loads. It gives you lots of different avenues. What's interesting is I think Ghostbath are like I think there's a feel on this from my perspective. Like they're always trying to find the most interesting way to bring in a blackened riff. Like how else can we bring it in? Well, let's try this style of playing, and then manage to make it fit. And then let's try this style, and then the next song comes on. They're like, no, just do the blackened riff. Like even on a track that started off with a kind of 80s synth work, which was like Stamen and Pistol, which has like it could be like on the Stranger Things soundtrack. The way it starts off was kind of punky like that. Like within seconds, it's hitting you with like blackened riffs, blackened vocals, but those synths are still there, nicely mixed in as well. You've got elements of kind of individual. It's not quite arpeggiated playing, but it's like it's kind of the equivalent of key pick playing. But you have this kind of lovely synthy warm tone that sits underneath that. It's really well crafted. And I'm surprised to hear that this is recorded at the same time the tracks are being written, because that to me, I don't know how someone does that, because that would fuck with my head. Like which he said himself, I would be constantly questioning if there's a reason bands demo everything and then go to someone with that and then they say, right, this is what the producer sits down and goes, this is what we're going to do with this. Does this bit need to be there or whatever? If you're doing that on the fly, your quality control could go right out the window because you're too much in that headspace all the time. Like, how do you know enough's enough if you don't take time to step back from it and kind of experience it? The album finishes, I think, super strong with Needles, which is another kind of building in track, and then the final track itself, Throat Cancer, which is a big, like, huge atmospheric, like, fucking awesome closer, once again with great synth work. There was one thing I was going to mention. We spoke about this offline because I wanted to make sure I didn't come across as a complete fucking moron, which I may still. On this album, there's a couple of tracks where either after a bit of singing or before he gets into it, he is like audibly coughing in a way which I thought was maybe comical at first, but then not being able to do my due diligence because that involves looking up things. But it's not covered in the press either, which is interesting. There was a thought behind that maybe he has suffered some sort of the last track being called Throat Cancer made me wonder if there has been something of that there, and that's like a linking theme throughout this. There's also the possibility, and it's only just come up in my head right now, that the rose thorn necklace might be choking him. Thematic, I don't know. I may be putting too much in. He may have just left it in because that's just how he wanted to do it, which is also fucking fine, right? But it was jarring to me as someone who has not listened to anything the band has done before. Right. I don't know if that's a motif he's used in other albums, call back to something else, but it is weird. So I didn't want to put that out there. It just, like, it caught me off guard. Overall, I really like this album. Like, to me, this is if you're telling me that the previous album is a fucking barn burner, because I wouldn't listen to Ross either, then, you know what I mean, I'm like all in for checking that out. I like this. It's daring, it's warm, it's heavy, it's emotional, and the song construction is just really, 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 really well done. And where the base of the genre that it's playing on, not to take pot shots at black metal, can be known for a lack of creativity. I've always said I like those elements being brought into more creative endeavors, and this is what I mean when I say that. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this album. What about you?
I mean, I think this is still a Ghost Bath album. It's bleak and you know, very ugly in places, but for me, like, coming off the last album into this, I feel like he's leaned a little bit more into the post-black side, and post-rock as well. This time around, I think there's a touch more emphasis on the lead work on this. It's a bit more sprawling, a bit more kind of grand at times. Definitely more uplifting in places, more vibrant than Self-Loather was for me. And that also kind of carries through into the production of the album. This is a much cleaner, kind of brighter. It has more of that kind of post-black, post-rock kind of space in it. Definitely not as suffocating as Self-Loather was, which wasn't a bad thing. Like, I really liked the production on that album, but this feels more open. The clean guitar tones really kind of resonate on this release. Really interesting to hear that the old drummer didn't connect with these tracks on an emotional level, because this album, like, for me in a way, felt it had more of an emotional kind of outpouring on it than in
Is
comparison.
the drum playing dramatically different between the previous album and this album? Like, I'm wondering if when he's saying that, there's a change in stylistic playing which he's not comfortable with because it feels more vulnerable, or it's a bit more laid back, it's a bit more, less technically heavy, or I don't know.
I mean, the last album definitely felt kind of bleaker than this overall, but I wouldn't say there was a huge, like, jump in drumming style, to be honest. But I think the cleaner parts on this, the solos and the kind of chord progressions he's used, and the synths, have elevated that kind of emotional feeling on Rose Thorn Necklace. The opening to Thinly Sliced Heart Muscle, I did get like a little tinge of like a Infinite Granite kind of feel as it starts off, and then it goes into that kind of that band that they made a boxing franchise out of a while ago. had a kind of similar kind of sound to that. But as I said before, they cover a lot of bases on this, probably more than they have on the previous album, but it never sounds out of place. I think he's very good at making like the pieces fit together, and giving you that sense of kind of flow and cohesion throughout the album. Even like the way he's used thinly sliced heart muscle or needles to kind of shift from one passage to the next on the album. There's even a bit of like kind of almost kind of like drum and bass on Vodka Butterfly, which shouldn't really work on an album like this, but it kind of does. For me though, like as much as I enjoyed the kind of musical compositions of this album, and those transitions, between light and dark, I think vocally for me is where this release gave me more personality. I think musically, yes, you can link this, you can compare it to a handful of other bands for sure. But Dennis McCullough as a vocalist, I think adds more distinction to this. It has a very like wide range of kind of vocal tools. Like that heavy side, it can go from that kind of almost kind of guttural kind of death, kind of blackened death metal, right into that like high pitched kind of shriek. But you do get that sense of agony, and the way that he delivers his vocal on the album. There's all sorts of like kind of howls and kind of moaning, and there's I'm sure there's like a female kind of crying as well. And then those moments you mentioned where he's like kind of coughing as well on the likes of Dandelion Tea. I loved all that stuff though. I thought like all those little things made this a much more interesting listen.
Same with more vulnerable.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
we talk about like when you hear it was the same. So I know that like some people, it's fun watching reaction. Like I love reaction videos of younger people or like people that don't listen to metal, finding like bands you've listened to all. But if you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, do like anyone reacting to "Daddy" by Korn. And just that whole section where he's just fucking breaking his heart, and like, people listening going, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah.
But I remember the first time I heard that, and like, I was a fucking like emotional listening to it. I was going through that with, and that to me is like that's about as vulnerable as music gets, where someone is physically like outpouring everything. You hear everything, the cracks. I love vocalists that scream and you can hear their voice break, like in it, because they're giving it everything. They can't control that. That's personable. That's how you connect to music. That's how you connect to like a song. So
yeah, I thought it was really cool that the fact that they kind of left all those bits in. There was nothing kind of like edited out afterwards. It was just kind of as is. Same with like the synth and the piano. I thought that was really well done as well. Sometimes it's quite subtle, but I think it adds another layer into the sound, and it kind of spreads things out a little bit more. I really enjoyed Mike Heller's drum work on this. I like, obviously he's in Fear Factory just now, but he's been in like System Divide, Abigail Williams, Malignancy. I think he was in Psy for a bit as well. And I love the fact that his drumming on this is very not Fear Factory on this album, and that it's not been replaced with samples. But I think this feels like him as most kind of natural. Like the drums are very kind of organic on this. You can hear, and kind of like the music, you can hear all the little details that would usually be removed from a Fear Factory album. And his playing style, I felt really kind of slotted in well to this release. It doesn't sound like a kind of drummer for hire on this. It's not. It doesn't have that kind of like, here's a session drummer that I've added into this album. It feels very natural. I really enjoyed his playing on this. I mean, I think this is a different album from Self-Loather. He's taken the kind of the Ghost Bath formula and expanded on certain elements. He's included a few new ideas. I don't know. I think I'm still pulled more to Self-Loather, especially in the production. There's something about the tone and the texture of that album that appealed to me more. So I might be more inclined to still go to that album over this one. But I enjoyed how far he's pushed the kind of extremities on this one, and kind of both directions. Even like this is what five albums in. He's still kind of pushing himself as a songwriter to try and reach new places or kind of touch on different emotions. So again, another very strong album from Ghostbath, and I won't be next time just kind of like letting it bypass to in the line. I'll be like, oh, let's check this out and let's give this a little review. Anyway, so scores for the new Ghostbath album. What are you scoring, Rose Thorn Necklace?
I'm giving this a 4.5. I really, really, really like this. Nice. I think this is one of those albums as well which instantly connected with me, but has rewarded me every re-listen as well. Like, I find I enjoy it more every time I come back to it.
Yeah. There's a lot that you get from this album on every listen. Like, there's little things that you probably have not heard, the first couple of listens that start to kind of make themselves or kind of pop out as you start to listen to it more. I think I'm going to go 4 out of 5 for me. As I said, I think it's maybe I've had more time with Self-Loader, so maybe it could be that, but I still feel like that's more in my kind of wheelhouse. Although I did enjoy what he's done on this album. But yeah, I'm going to go 4 out of 5 on this one. Ghostbath, Rose Thorn Necklace, out on May 9th on Nuclear Blast Records. Check out the links to the band, the pre-order. I'll stick a single in there as well so you can have a listen. Let us know what you think. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on the album when it's dropped. That is the review. Thank you for checking out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.